Her first thought was to stop, drop, and roll. What happened? The so-called expert she had entrusted her hair to had just set it on fire. Was it too much hairspray, or was the burn due to something more sinister? But the last customer, who was where Dahlia was now, had walked out with the prettiest hair she had ever seen. Did the stylist target her? She would soon find out. Delia Edwards felt a surge of joy when she found out she'd gotten the job. She was a reporter for local news in San Diego for years, working as part of a small news team that always made her feel welcome. But while she loved all that working in her hometown entailed, her ambitions would take her down a different path. Wanting to break into the big leagues, she applied for a reporter position on a much larger news team. Delia couldn't believe what she was seeing. After all the work she had put in, she finally advanced her journalism career. But such a position would ask a lot of her. When you work in television, looking good is usually one of your top priorities. For Delia, a new hairstyle would begin this transformative journey in her new role. She hadn't visited a salon in months, and she had heard of a spectacular one that would meet all her needs. If only she knew what she was getting herself into. The hair salon in question was only 20 minutes from Delia's apartment. She was glad her car had excellent hair care, considering how hot and miserable her town's summer was. But little did the young reporter realize the heat was only going to get worse, especially if she got her hair done at this new hair salon. Delia should be reporting to her new job in a week. She had to do her best because first impressions are everything. She went to the mall and bought new suits, blouses, and perfume. These items would not only make her feel comfortable and dressed for the role, but empower her. All that remained was a hot trip to the salon. Little did she know it wasn't going to get any hotter until she got there. After 20 minutes on the road, Delia finally arrived. A friend of a friend recommended this salon. After all the great things she had said about it, Delia knew this was where she would get her hair done. The receptionist directed her to a waiting chair. She promised Delia that her hairstylist, whom Delia had booked, would be with her as soon as they were done with the client. Delia waited patiently at the front desk. She picked up one of the outdated magazines and flipped through the pages, realizing that the hairstyles were more than 5 years outdated. Despite this, she found them amusing and laughed at what was fashionable at the time. She was still absorbed in the magazine when the client she was trying to follow passed. Delia couldn't believe what she was seeing. The customer paid for her hair. Delia couldn't help but admire her hairdo as she spoke to the receptionist. When was the last time she was so impressed? Her anticipation doubled as she imagined the same care and skill going into her hair. The woman seemed happy with the service she received. Delia hoped she would come out the same way. Delia rushed to the stylist's workstation and took a seat. He seemed to know his hair, and she relaxed as his combs and clippers went to work. She explained the look she wanted, and he nodded with a warm smile. His hands went to work, sliding expertly around her head. But then he did something she had never seen before and left her with a hot head. A few minutes into the styling process, Delia noticed something odd. The suffocating smell of smoke filled her nostrils, and where there was smoke, there was fire. Was the San Diego heat bothering her, or did the stylist do something unorthodox to her hair? Was any of this real? Panic spread as Delia realized the terrible truth. Her hair burned. Her instinct was to stop, drop, and roll. What's happened? This so-called expert had just set her hair on fire. Did he use too much hairspray and it just burned? No, there were far more sinister things at play. The barber's last customer had left the salon with the most beautiful hair Delia had ever seen. Why had he targeted her? She would soon get her answers. Delia had yelled at him. He doused the flames with the sweep of his comb before asking her what was going on. "What have you done to my hair?" she demanded. The stylist smiled. "That's how I work. The last woman you saw leaving was treated the same way." It felt like she had been hit by a truck. How could this woman have set her hair on fire? It looked so good when she left. The stylist explained to Delia that it was a new technique that he had perfected, and that was taking the city by storm. He assumed she knew what he was up to, so he didn't warn her. He'd assured her that this was all part of the process. After convincing him a bit, she settled back in the chair, knowing that if he had done anything wrong, she could always claim legal redress. For the next 30 minutes, in a literal hot seat, the stylist got to work with his unique method. He cut and lit her and elegantly combed her hair. At times, Delia felt like she was crazy for letting him do that. But when he told her he was done and she could see her hair, there was no disappointment. Her hair looked amazing. It must have been the best cut she's ever had. Delia still felt like what had just happened was unreal. She wished she had heard about it. but she really couldn't complain about the outcome. She had a new suit, a new blouse, and now a haircut to match. She knew that the next time she needed a haircut, she would come back. The results spoke for themselves, and Delia left the salon with a smile, just like the client before her. To protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifiers have been changed and are the product of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual events or places, or persons living or dead, is purely coincidental.